on and powered up all of my machines. My DC, my VC, both EXI hosts, all powered on. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my vCenter, and just for usability, I'm going to go ahead and maximize my screen. Remember that because we're using the StarWind software, first thing we have to do is we have to make sure that it opens and then it connects. That's going to be a given for all labs here forward. I know that I stated that multiple times, so just keep that in mind. So once you actually see them connecting, go ahead and open up our VMware client. Our single sign-on should work. If not, log in as vita/administrator with our appropriate password. So we're going to go ahead and expand a data store. Back in Lab 9, we set up iSCSI2 as a 33 gig LUN, but we only used less than half of it. So we still have 17 gigs free on this LUN. So we're actually going to go ahead and expand on some of it. So let's go ahead and go back to home. We're going to expand out home, hosts and clusters underneath home. And we're going to be going back to ESXi1. I know I was just in this view, but again, I like following individual steps. So we're going to go over to our configuration. We're going to be looking at storage. Because we were talking about specifically iSCSI2, we're going to go ahead and right click on it, Properties. Notice our 15 gigs / 16 gigs is right there. We actually want to go ahead and increase it. So we're going to click on Increase. Select our appropriate LUN. Again, the capacity is 33 gigs. And our free space is 17 gigs. This is just showing a general disk layout initially. How far do we want to extend it? The lab says maximum size available, which does mean we're going to expand it out the additional 17 gigs. You can do customize space and type in 17 gigs. You can do maximize space available. Just kind of depends on you. Next. And finish. And it should go ahead and parcel out. Notice in our progress, it does take a second or two, and there we go. We've now configured it to be 32.75 gigs. So once you go ahead and see that, go ahead and close it. So now we have iSCSI1 and iSCSI2. We are actually going to be creating an additional drive. So I'm going to go back up here. Our lab instructions say to go ahead and shut down our Vita, because we're going to be adding a new drive to it. Remember, when VC goes down, all the XI hosts lose their iSCSI connection, because our Vita, our VC, is our centralized storage. It is our SAN unit. So bear that in mind. So once it's powered down, we're going to be editing it. So right click, settings. We actually want to add in an additional drive. You may get a UAC pop-up, that's okay. We want to add a hard drive. We want to create a new disk. We want to a new SCSI drive. We want to make this 35 gigs. The lab document says to allocate it now. It's just if we allocate it now, it does take a while, so I'm not going to do the allocation right this second. Make sure to call it iSCSI3. iSCSI3. I added an extra C in there. That should be good. And there is our third disk. Make sure it is named appropriately. Oh, just because I did it with all the other ones, make sure to add the extension vmdk. And it doesn't like that. It's okay, once it actually powers on, it should accept it without a problem. So let's go ahead and power it back on. So while I'm logging in, I'm going to go ahead and maximize my screen again, because most of the work we're doing is in our VC, so that way I can just focus on my VC. The login process could take a few minutes. Just bear in mind that if updates were not disabled, then we just gotta wait, be patient. And our login screen appears. Again, we are using nested virtual machines, so you want Alt Control Insert so that we can log in. If you do Alt Control Delete, it does Task Manager on the physical machine, so just bear that in mind. I've been doing this for a little while, so I actually get a Windows activation error. That's okay, we're just going to ignore them, because we never actually entered serial numbers for server. That is okay. When we first log in, again, make sure to open up Starwind. It is typical that our disk management will go ahead and automatically open. You'll see that we have a disk 3. Our LUN is completely disabled right now, so we have to initialize the disk. If you don't get this, exit out of disk management, go back into it, you'll get it. We're going to do an MBR, so it should show online, but it's all unallocated still. So go ahead and right click on it. We're going to create a new simple volume, and we want to allocate how much space. We're going to allocate all the space. We want to give it drive letter U. We will actually want to call it iSCSI 3. Make sure that quick format's enabled. Double check all the settings, and when you're ready, click on finish. It should go ahead and prep the disk. And there we go, our disk is prepped and formatted, so go ahead and minimize that. Open up our Starwind Manager. Go to our vc.video.local. Again, notice that it's not connected, so go ahead and connect. If you get unsuccess, give it a minute and reconnect. If you trying to connect to it too quickly, when the PC starts, it gets kind of finicky. It tells us no. Again, in a production environment, we would probably have a hardware SAN, not a software SAN. That wouldn't be causing this many problems, but this is what we got, so that's what we do. So once it's open, we're going to actually add another device. So go to Target, Add Device. We're adding in a hard disk. We're going to be adding in a basic virtual disk, an image file. We're going to be creating a new virtual file. We're going to be calling this on our U drive. iSCSI 3.img, and our size will be 33 gigs. And don't worry about the compression or encryption or fill with the zeros. The fill of zeros might be a good idea. It's just, again, it takes a lot of time, and I've noticed our labs, we spend majority of half our time waiting for things like allocation to actually allocate, or space to actually allocate. It's just, it slows down. So with this, go ahead and review, make sure that it's the correct iSCSI, 33 gigs, and then next. Make sure the path, and when you're ready to go, click on next. Our cache mode is normal, that's fine. We actually want to allow multiple concurrent iSCSI connections, clustering, and make sure our target alias is iSCSI 3, and that should be good. When we are ready, verify, click on next, double check all the settings, next, and we are ready to go. Finish. So now we have our 3 aliases. So once they're up, let's go ahead and launch our vCenter, our vSphere client. Again, our single sign-on should be working, so I've noticed while this connects, single sign-on does not always work, and I've scoured the VMware documentation, and sometimes it's best just to reset our vCenter, completely uninstall it, reinstall it to get our single sign-on to work. Was a pain, but again, navigate to Home, Host and Clusters. Once we're at this view, we're looking at configuration. We want to go to storage. Notice that only our iSCSI 1 and 2 are here. So we actually want to add in additional storage. We do this by going to storage adapters. And you'll notice that our iSCSI 1 only shows 2. So let's go ahead and rescan. Go ahead and rescan for both, that's fine. And bam, we get our 3 LUNs. I'm going to back up to storage. It's not here yet, so let's go ahead and rescan storage up here. So why do we only get our iSCSI 1 and iSCSI 2? We actually have to add the storage, that's why it's not populating. Now we're going to hold off on this because we're actually going to be doing a LUN extension for iSCSI 2 so that iSCSI 2 has additional storage space. So we're going to do the same thing on our ESXi 2. Is go to storage, storage adapters. Again, we only see the 2. We want to rescan. We want to make sure that all 3 are visible. So when we're ready, let's go ahead and go back up to storage, because we actually want to be extending our iSCSI 2. So go ahead and right click, go to its properties. We actually want to increase its space. So increase. We have our full additional iSCSI 3 LUN. We can verify that by looking at the path ID, iSCSI 3. To note, you'll only get this if there is not a current VMFS on it, because we just initialized this third iSCSI LUN. There's nothing there, so go ahead and click on next, or select it, click on next. Verify the settings. This is the current disk layout. There's nothing there, which we already knew that, so yes, that's right. How much space are we going to be doing? We're going to choose maximum space, even though we can customize it to a specific storage amount. Double check all the settings, finish, and let it actually extend the data store. It only takes a second, so be kind of patient. So go ahead and close it. And our capacity is now 65 gigs. If you do not see this, what I've noticed, sometimes you've got to do refresh a few times. If you're trying to do this via the web client, you've got to be a little bit more patient, but it should populate. And that's the end of this lab. Thank you.